Welcome, everyone. It's the Sports Writers. We're here after the first weekend of high school football, getting ready for the second weekend. Phil Stacy, Matt Williams, Nick Giannino from the Salem News, Nick Kukuru, the sports editor of the Gloucester Times, is with us. And gentlemen, the first weekend, some strong wins by Danvers, Beverly, Marblehead, Peabody. We can name a few others. Manchester Essex pulled out a win up at Ipswich, and so on and so on. And we also had Fenwick and Prep posting wins this past weekend. And I want to talk a little bit more about those two teams because we didn't touch a lot on them last week because we're just trying to get going here with some of the league stuff. But gentlemen, Phil, I'm going to ask you to start because Beverly posted a strong win at home under first-year head coach Jeff Hutton.
They did, yeah. I didn't include this quote in my story. I tweeted it out just for space reasons. I thought it was pretty good what Jeff said. You know, on the surface, and I'm paraphrasing, on the surface, you know, things might look great. They won 33-0. Of course, they shut out Haverhill. Andre Sullivan with a 4-touchdown game. Everything looked to be really strong on the wing tee. But as a coach, he's saying, 10 minutes after the game that he could still see a lot of things that needed tweaking or working on. So he essentially said, and again, I'm paraphrasing, they were working at about 65 to 70% efficiency. And he felt like, well, geez, if we can put up 33 points, working at 65, 70% efficiency, then we must be on the right page here. And I think he's right. Hey, the wing tee is an offense that allows squads with maybe smaller linemen but skilled athletes to do well and move the football, and Beverly certainly did that. The aforementioned Sullivan had 93 yards and just 5 carries. Jordy Irvine had another 75 yards on the backfield. Gabe Copeland, who, of course, Mino's familiar with on the hard court during the winter. Did he start or did he play on that Garden team as a freshman, Nick?
Yeah. He did, yeah, and he was a key player. Yeah.
Okay.
And then last year he was their best player in that shortened season. Or one of the best.
So he's a 6'4" junior. I hesitate to use the term freakishly athletic, but I think that really applies with him. I'm not sure he knows he's quite put it all together yet, football-wise. And once he does, he could be a scary good player for Beverly. He went over the top of some Haverhill linemen the other day to block a punt deep in Haverhill territory. Beverly recovered and scored 2 plays later with Copeland himself taking it in. He did a great job on the nose, really blowing up the opposing center and causing all kinds of havoc. He had 2 sacks on Saturday. I thought he had a terrific game. And, I think you have to look at it, Bill, in a bit of a bubble in the sense that I think Haverhill's going to be down this year. They had a freshman quarterback. They have 4 sophomore linemen. They don't have a lot of depth. And Beverly took advantage of that. Is that going to be the case when they go to North Andover this week? Probably not. But I do think Beverly will be able to run on them because I think that run game can be vaunted. So, hey, for starters, it's a good start. I think, when they go to take on, don't they play Peabody fairly early in the conference schedule, Willie? Maybe week 3 or 4?
I believe it's week 3, yeah.
Yeah. So, no matter what happens in North Andover this week, they're going to get a really good test. They know at Peabody in week 3, of course, when they play Masco, Danvers, Marblehead, those will all be tests. But all that aside, a great start for the Panthers. And as you said, first win for new head coach Jeff Hutton.
Matt, you were up with Danvers on Saturday for their win at Tewksbury. And that was a nice win for the Falcons. With a new coach, with Kevin Fassett coming over as the offensive coordinator, but Coach Ryan Nolan, back with his team, but with a lot of new players this year.
Yeah, different approaches to that wing tee, certainly different opponents, I would say, as well. So that sort of kind of puts the exclamation point. I know Tewksbury's down a little bit, lost quite a bit, but, a perennial Super Bowl team that only lost to St. John's Prep and Central Catholic, who we'll talk about later, might score 100 points on each other this weekend. So pretty good program there in Tewksbury, and to go over there and win on their opening day for their brand new stadium, that's a tall task. And Danvers did it throwing the football. The young quarterback, Troy Voisin, throwing it all over the place. No problem at all. Owen Gazanowski, only a sophomore, just winning one-on-one matchups. Really, I think if I'm not mistaken, there were 3 50-yard pass plays, and they were all on third down. And so that's how Danvers got most of their points. And his older brother, Max, got a 49-yard touchdown with only 15 seconds left in the half that helped change the game. Colin Kelter with an 80-plus yard kick return for a touchdown. So that right there is 5 chunk plays of yardage for Danvers. None of them running the football. So Danvers has, no problem winging it, throwing it. And that's really hopefully going to open up the run game as they go. Now, what they want to do in Danvers that they haven't done in the past is spread the ball around. Traditionally, in the old rich stack eye offense, they would ride a horse basically until the horse fell off, right? And they want to diversify. And they used, I think, 8 ball carriers in this game. I think nobody got more than 10 carries in the game. And the leader in carries was the quarterback. They ran a whole bunch of quarterback sneaks in a row while they were just trying to run clock in the fourth quarter. So the idea that all the backs are going to be fresh for a team that, let's face it, quite honestly, does not have a lot of bodies, has some key guys going both ways, guys that they're going to need to tote the mail in the run game in big games are going to be going all the way at outside linebacker, Steve Breeden and Gazanowski. So they want to spread the ball around. They did a great job of doing that. And, all returns are positive for Danvers in the early going. This is, you looked at their schedule coming in. Wow, Tewksbury, Haverhill, and Reading, 3 upper division teams, 3 teams that have had playoff success in the recent past. And you thought, they just need to survive this. And now, you look at what Haverhill did against Beverly. Now Danvers is looking at being 2-1 going into league play, probably. So, that's a big turnaround from where we thought they might be a month ago.
Bill, I think you figured it out there with the feedback. Nick Kukuru, I think, needs to be muted unless he's speaking. We're getting some feedback there. Pretty good.
Just so you know, Nick, so if Kukuru, if we can mute you, then I think we might be okay. When you're not talking, we want you to talk in 1 minute. I want one fast question for Willie here. Is there a new stadium? Is it right next to the high school now? Their new high school?
Oh, no, it's the same location.
Okay.
I don't know where the high school is. There is a school over there.
It's not, that's not the high school. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're building like a new town hall right behind it too. That's still sort of under construction too. So, but it's nice. I mean, it's gorgeous. And I will say this: we've discussed this on the podcast before. There was a Masconomet luminary at the game that I got a chance to talk to for a little bit at halftime, and he said, looking around at this beautiful stadium, geez, how come we don't have one of these? So, food for thought in Chieftain country there.
Okay. Hey, Nick Kukuru, let's go to you. Fisherman, I thought it was we actually talked quite a bit about the Hamilton-Wenham Gloucester matchup, that was last weekend. Interesting. I kind of thought whoever won that was going to win it by a couple of touchdowns. I don't know why, but it was a pretty close game. So maybe share the story of that and ahead this week for those 2 teams.
Yeah, I mean, defensive struggle really. Hamilton Wenham, got off the field really well. I think Gloucester won first down through the first 3 quarters, and it was a 62-yard touchdown run. Gloucester kind of had the bend but don't break mentality. Hamilton Wenham moved it, but didn't really finish the drive. They kind of, bared down when they needed to in the red zone. The difference was kicker Zachary Wallace knocked down a 39-yard field goal. I drilled it too. He had plenty of leg. And then he knocked down a 24-yarder early in the fourth quarter that kind of put him up by 6. But, Gloucester really, after that touchdown, didn't really threaten. They didn't reach the red zone. I think they got it into Hamilton-Wenham territory twice, but they didn't get it inside the 35. So, that Generals defense was all over it. And the difference really between the 2 teams, Marcus Norden from Hamilton-Wenham was the best player on the field. He led them in rushing. He had 30 yards receiving. He threw the ball a few times, did a 60-yard kick return. He returned some punts. So, he had a big night for them, and he was kind of the difference. But defense was the story in this one. Both teams kind of plugged it out. Hamilton-Wenham got a couple field goals. They moved the ball a little better. Friday night, I thought the team that executed better did end up winning in the end. And next week Gloucester is Malden Catholic. I don't know how they are. They've never played before. I know they won big last week. I know they usually struggle in the Catholic Conference, but that doesn't mean much of anything in terms of a matchup with Gloucester. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Nick Giannino, I want to bring you in, but we could, if there's anything else guys want to talk about on the highlights from last weekend, we can chime in at this point before we move to our previews. Because as I mentioned right at the top, Marblehead, Peabody, Fenwick, and the Prep all with nice wins to open up the weekend last weekend. Nick?
Yeah, well, I was at Essex Tech. Great opening win for them, 41-8 over Lynn Tech. I mean, never was really too close. I think the first touchdown scored by Lynn made it a 21-7 game or somewhere around there. And, Essex Tech really controlled the play all night. The story in that one was Jace Dooley, who we know is a very talented receiver. He had, I think, 6 catches, almost 190 yards and 4 touchdowns. Actually had another long ball called back on a hold that would have gave him, put him over 200 yards receiving. So he was a beast. They couldn't contain him at all. And it didn't matter who threw to him. I mean, their starting quarterback from last year, Devin LeBron, got off to a hot start. I think he was 4 for 4 with 2 touchdowns to Dooley, and then had to leave the game with a shoulder injury that's been bugging him. He might miss a few weeks. We're not sure on that front, but it didn't seem too serious. They're more, being cautionary with that. But yeah, they brought in Harry Lynch, a little known guy. I'd never heard of him. I don't know about you guys, but he came in and played very well. He completed 6 passes, had 179 yards and 2 more touchdowns to Dooley. So they threw the ball well. They mixed it up. I think they ran the ball maybe 25, 26 times and threw the ball 18 times. So pretty balanced offensive attack there. Defensively, they got the job done. I mean, they were pretty good up front. Lynn Tech was a team that liked to pound the rock. They didn't pass it too much, and they did a good job, getting the stops when they needed to. I think there was a 4th and 2 situation. The Lynn Tech was driving, could have really cut into the lead there, and they got the stop. So things like that, they were able to get it done when they needed to. So impressive opening night win for the Hawks.
I know the Lynn football teams, not necessarily that you guys cover them, but English lost their opener, Classical won their opener, St. Mary's won, but St. Mary's now travels to Nantucket this weekend on Saturday. And some of you guys may remember those old classic Manchester Essex teams going down to Nantucket rather. It was a great series over the years. Ira Yabner was at Manchester Essex, or Manchester at the time, I guess, just Manchester. And then Fran York was head coach at Manchester there for a number of years, and that was a great rivalry. So it brings back kind of memories. So St. Mary's going down to Nantucket on Saturday to play. So, gentlemen, do you guys want to move to next week's games, this coming week's games? Okay.
Sure.
We'll go on there. And so as I look at the schedule, let's go to the let's just jump to well, these games are Saturdays, or some of them are Saturdays, but the Prep hosting Central Catholic. That's a 1 o'clock game at the Prep. Tentatively, those are the times we have. And one of you guys already mentioned, I think Fenwick and Arlington Catholic playing this coming week. And actually, we were talking about that before we started to record. But maybe you guys want to take we've got a visitor. Bambi. It looks like Bambi has stopped by, although it's probably a dog. Yeah.
One of my dogs.
You guys want to touch on the Prep or Fenwick?
I know Fenwick had a great opening night win, and you say, well, yeah, of course it's Fenwick. They've been rolling for a few years, but
yeah,
they graduated so many people that I think there were a lot of question marks as to who's going to step up and fill these roles, and if they do, how well are they going to do? Well, I mean, at least for openers, I think they looked very good against South Hadley. A balanced approach with Stephen Woods, the coach's son, at the controls at quarterback. He was 10 for 11 for about 160 yards, 3 touchdown passes. Costa Beechin had a nice game for them. Chris Faraka, I think, had 2 touchdown receptions on 5 catches, 103 yards. Defensively, they got after it. And, I think it's not only a great win, it's not only terrific for any team to win on opening day, but a real shot in the arm for a team that's both young and inexperienced by and large to do that. So They open up Catholic Conference play this weekend at Arlington Catholic. I think that game's been moved from a 6 o'clock start to a 1 o'clock start at the pit in Arlington. So it'll be interesting to see how Fenwick does in league competition. But as we know, Coach Woods and his staff are so innovative offensively. They have so many, I don't want to even say them tricks or gadgets. There's just so many wrinkles to their offense. That RPO that they love to run just finds a way to exploit defenses and catch them off guards at inopportune times for the opponents, which I think is a huge boon to Fenwick. Now, it certainly helped when they had the talent that they had, say, the past 2 years. But I think these guys have been champing at the bit to show what they can do on their own, and they run through these reps at practice all the time. And, again, based on what they did, at least for an opener, it worked out pretty well. They'll be hoping to keep it going this Saturday.
Yeah.
I think, Jack Perry is a guy, the St. John's Prep quarterback. I mean, he was one of my crystal ball guys that's going to be a big name. And how can you look at what he did this week and not say, holy Moses? I mean, I had a couple people say to me, yeah, the Prep's got a lot of good players, but who's the quarterback, And this guy comes out, he throws for 294 yards, the most of anybody in the area week 1, and takes his team down the field in under a minute and wins the game. There could have been.
Did you ever see the video of that game-winning touchdown pass?
I did, yeah. I mean, he was on the run.
I mean, right on the run, flushed out, and he drops a dime right into O'Fury's hands. I mean, that was a great pass.
I'm sure that there's going to be some coaching points on that, but I mean, he put the ball where it was supposed to be. I should say, I won't reveal who it was, but I was at a game and one of the coach, there was a quarterback that threw a ball like that, and one of the coaches said, "You have been watching too many Patrick Mahomes videos. You got to stop doing that. Step into your throws, please." And he didn't say please, but so that's an interesting. I'm sure there'll be some coaching points there, but I mean, this guy, tremendous opener, and the Prep was up by 2 touchdowns the whole game, and they kind of blew it on defense, right? And to not have that shell shockery to come right back out and win it. I mean, yeah, this guy's got the best receiving core certainly on the North Shore, and one of the best in the state with Patrick and O'Fury and Delaney. I mean, I think most of our local teams, all 3 of those guys would be the number 1 guy, right? I mean, I'm not sure, that there's many local teams that have a number 1 that's better than any of those guys. I mean, we could probably debate maybe Connor Cronin or Danny Barrett or whatever, but the point remains there's great weapons there for the Prep, and Perry really has established himself, I think, with this win as the man over there. And now he's got a guy coming in from Central Catholic and Aiden Pereira that accounted for 10 touchdowns and something like 600 yards of total offense. So if you're a Prep defensive player, I mean, you better be in for a hard week of practice. I mean, you just gave up 40-something points to Marshfield, and now you have this Central team coming in that just scored 60 points, against a really good team out west. And wow, I mean, is this game going to be a pinball game? I mean, is this going to be one of those Big Ten shootouts? This could easily set a record for most points ever total in a St. John's Prep game. It looks like going in. I mean, this is like unbelievable. I just keep thinking about, is this where high school football is headed? Just like college, with these high scoring games and no defense and because of the hash marks and the rules, I mean, and the spread, is defense impossible? Is this, basketball on grass? I think we saw some of our spread teams too, Peabody and Marblehead specifically, kind of struggle to run the ball this week because of the proliferation of the spread and the just the emphasis on this. People aren't cracking heads and running the ball. And so I sort of wonder, and the thing that sets St. John's apart is they have James Guy. He was the only 100-yard rusher in the area this week. So they want to run the ball and control the clock, and maybe that's the way they try to keep that Central offense off the field. But wow, I mean, just for me, big picture, I look at this Prep Central game and wonder if it's a sign that we're all headed the way of Oklahoma.
Speaking of highest scoring Prep games ever, it's funny you mentioned that. their game in Marshfield Friday tied the most points ever in a St. John's Prep game combined with 89 points.
Mhm.
They beat Catholic Memorial 58-31 in 2014.
I remember that game. Yep.
And that had been the highest point game to date. So now they've equaled that. The North Shore record, as some people know, I mean, we have had a fair share of games in the 90s and a few hundreds. I'd say Pingree has more games in that top 10 of our area than anyone else, but the highest scoring game we've ever had in these parts was 111 points. I'm sorry. Manchester Essex over the old North Shore Tech, 64-47 in 2009. So that was 111 points. Shootout at the OK Corral.
And that the great thing, and that was 12 years ago, before this was really a thing.
Yeah.
So
right.
that's really impressive. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me, and just the way, and Swampscott, I didn't look at their rushing totals, but it didn't look great either. And I just, so many of these teams are pass blocking and leverage blocking. They're not firing out, and they're not opening holes. And I just wonder if it's, can you do that? Can you do both with the time that our teams have to work? And time will tell. Certainly, Marblehead has had great balance with that in the past, and we'll see. I mean, I just think it takes maybe a month or so for a line to gel. The thing that Mark Betancourt said, and I thought this was a great way to put it. He said, right now our offensive line is 5 fingers, and we need to find a way to turn it into one fist.
I think there were some outliers there, and you mentioned Marblehead. I mean, I think they're certainly going to start chewing up yards on the ground. They were fortunate that they got out to a good lead against Concord Carlisle Friday night, and maybe didn't have to pound away with Percy and Cronin. In fact, their leading ball carrier was a backup, Edward Johns, with 33 yards. So it wasn't as though they had to rely on that. They got some pop passes early that led to some scores. Same with Beverly, I mean, they ran the ball great, but Sullivan only needed 5 carries for his 93 yards and touchdowns. I think Jordy Irvine might have had 10 carries for 75 yards. They got enough of a lead early where they didn't need to, and they had running time in the fourth quarter, so that didn't that cut into the amount of plays that they would run. But I think by and large, you're right, Willie, and that's why I'm. I guess you'd call this an advanced tease, Bill. I'll be heading over to prep practice Tuesday afternoon to talk to some of those defensive backs about what they need to do to slow down this, at least through one game, extremely dangerous central offensive attack.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously didn't get a chance to see much of the Marshfield game, but I'm wondering how they got so many points, because I'm just thinking like the prep athletically, with Mitchell and Patrick, I mean, one-on-one coverage. I mean, they got guys who can run with anybody, right? I mean, so it can't be a physical thing. There must have been a fair number of missed tackles or just mental mistakes. And so I got to imagine that that's stuff that is correctable the way that the prep coaches. And so that's why I'm really fascinated to see, some of these matchups in this central game, because it's just, I mean, we know how much damage a quarterback can do, but we also know
didn't Marshfield come in with like one of the state's longest winning streaks too into that game?
I mean, they're a great football team.
Yeah.
I just mean one-on-one. Like,
Okay.
if you're going one-on-one, like, those prep guys can cover anybody, right? I mean, it's not a case where, okay, I'm faster than you, I don't need good technique, I'm just going. Those guys can match up athletically with anybody. So I'm just kind of wondering like how those points happened and if it's even duplicatable once they correct what they feel like are their mistakes. It's really, really fascinating. And
interesting too about Central Catholic, Willie, that like for years and years they lost so many great players from that greater, let's call it North Andover area, to St. John's, because they were the more established program. Now it seems like they're keeping a lot more of those kids. And the old joke was it was always ground Chuck up at Central Catholic, with Chuck Adamopoulos, just run. Well, clearly he's playing to the strengths of what he has. He's got a quarterback who can not only run, but air it out. I mean, I don't care what level of football, if it's the, Gloucester youth football Chargers, anybody that scores 10 touchdowns or accounts for 10 touchdowns is a remarkable performance.
And the kid who is now the quarterback at UNH, one of the best programs in New England, great football team, is a Central Catholic guy. I forget his name. I think it's Edwards or something like that. And I mean, he's a starter there for UNH, and that's a team that wants to go to the Division One, FCS playoffs, and they got a Central Catholic kid under center. I mean, so if you're a young kid that wants to run the spread, wow. I mean, there's not, that many of the high level teams that can say, we've got an actual starting quarterback at a Division One ranked school. I mean, obviously Xaverian's had that happen a few times over the years. I don't think Everett ever has. The prep, it's been a while at that level. So that's impressive what they've been able to do. And I mean, you got to imagine that this kid Pereira is the next one.
Hey, can I just mention real quick, Bill? And I don't think they have a game this week because South Boston doesn't appear as though it's going to be able to field the team in time. But Salem, Friday night, the Witches, they've won one of their last 20 games going back to 2018. Many of the players on the roster have never won a varsity. The majority of the players, maybe Michael Reddy was a sophomore when they beat Essex Tech back in November 2018. But this is a team that not only wants to win, they have to learn how to win. And they were really close Friday against Chelsea. Now, hey, really close is like hand grenades and horseshoes, right? Close but no cigar kind of thing. But I see them as a team that's improving. Now, will that result in wins once they get in the conference play? I don't know. They do play Greater Lawrence next week. I know they're hoping to taste victory then, but you're seeing improvements. Just for the fact, I think I pointed out the other day, they had 2 touchdowns in 7 games during the spring season, the fall 2 season, like a grand total of 2 touchdowns. They had 3 on Friday night. They made some mistakes with penalties. They gave up some big plays. They had some young guys in the defensive secondary that gave up some big chunks there that hurt. A lot of correctable things. So I'd like to think Salem is on the right path. Again, I don't know if that's going to translate into wins that they so desperately need, just for the sheer fact of the competition they face. They're going to be up against Peabody and Winthrop and Gloucester. Saugus is a team they probably match up well with. But I think it'll be really important to have a good week of practice if you're Salem, for the kids that are buying into Coach Matt Bouchard's system to continue to work at it, to work to eliminate those mistakes and still strive to do the things they do well. Jariel Delval, who was we knew him as a wideout last year, was carrying the ball a lot the other night. Michael Reddy threw it well. Corey Grimes looked good. I really like the freshman Rocco Ryan as a middle linebacker and a change of pace back who can catch the ball. I mean, there are pieces there. They just need to be able to taste success. I really hope for them it comes next week against Greater Lawrence to give them that shot in the arm that they need.
Yeah, Matt Bouchard, good coach, great guy as well. Wish him the best, whatever he does with Salem. Hey, one of the things that, we've returned to normal after COVID is, Phil, I got to see on Twitter your annual photo, or at least your first annual photo with the voice of the Panther, voice of the Panthers. So it's always good to see that on Twitter, at least once, twice a year. Probably it'll be back later on this season. That's my guess.
Whenever he wants to do it, I'm always game for it. And, hey, I had my mask, but for a photo, I took it off and, it was fine. Good time there. Yeah, great guy, Matt Redden. And actually happy to report that he is, he was the interim head coach of the Beverly lacrosse team this past spring, and he's now the full-time head coach. So good for Matt. They lost their first 2 games of the year pretty badly to Marblehead and Peabody, and then they, righted the ship and made it into the state playoffs. And I thought the staff did a really nice coaching job. So glad to hear that he'll be the full-time voice. I'm sorry, he'll be the full-time coach. He's already the full-time voice of the Panthers, but he'll be the Beverly boys lacrosse head coach.
We're running low on time here, but we do have Friday Masco at Peabody. You got Lynn English at Swampscott for that Blydell Cup, Marblehead traveling to Lynn Classical. But Nick Giannino, I want to bring you in here in our final few minutes here, couple minutes here, but whether it be golf, soccer, or whatever else you might want to touch on at all.
Yeah, I can touch on some boys soccer. We had a couple NEC teams play this weekend. Beverly got off to a good start. I think 4-2 win over Tewksbury. They were coming off a competitive 2-0 loss to St. John's Prep in a final scrimmage of the preseason there. So they gave the Eagles a game, and St. John's Prep is going to be one of the top teams in the state again, I imagine. So to do that and then come in and beat Tewksbury, Nick Bragyanka, the reigning player of the year, he had 2 goals. So I think Beverly is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the NEC. And then Danvers, came back after a tough loss to Masco, where they lost 4-0. But talking to Jared Scarpacci of Masco, he said, Danvers was great. They gave him a good test. I think all Masco's goals came off set pieces, like corner kicks and things of that nature. So some positives to be taken there. And then Danvers came out and got a win on Saturday. Who did they beat on Saturday, Phil? You had the
I'm thinking
Tewksbury.
Tewksbury. Yeah, Beverly beat Concord Carlisle.
Yeah, that's a good win for Beverly. I mean, they're a good team.
And they put up 4 goals. I mean, they're going to be, like I said, tough to beat. And Danvers put up 4 goals in a win over Tewksbury. So, a couple good things to come out of the NEC early there. I think it's going to be a competitive season for our teams in the NEC.
Yeah. Guys, maybe if we have a minute left, anything else, Matt or Phil, you guys want to close out on? Any notes at all?
Well, I'm just curious, guys. We talk about this trend with the quarterbacks, and teams are certainly throwing the ball a lot more. Just in my past 5 or 6 years covering football at the Salem News, I was really getting used to teams just running the ball and throwing it every now and then. And of course, you got teams like the Prep and Marblehead who are going to throw it more, but a lot of the teams were just ground and pound, and now we're seeing that trend kind of change towards the spread offense. And I was just curious, do you guys feel like that's a personnel thing? I mean, it seems like we have a lot of good quarterbacks and some really athletic kids playing receiver and tight end, or do you think it's just more of a trend in that direction for high school football as a whole, just going towards that kind of college offense?
I think they're going to do what they can to get their athletes the ball in space. If the best players are running backs and they have a good size line, or they have, like a Beverly, a wing T that can work, they're going to do that. If they feel as though, Swampscott did 20 years ago, starting the trend towards a spread offense or lining up full time in a shotgun or even a pistol, that they're going to go with that. I mean, I think Willie I don't see a whole lot of bell cows out there, guys who are going to carry an offense on their back. So you want to spread it around, and that's a way to do it, by throwing the ball like that. Especially now that I assume the games you guys were at had 12-minute quarters as well.
Yeah,
that adds all kinds, an extra 4 minutes to each game, so that allows for a little more chance to mix it up and get in more passes if need be. If nothing else too, it's exciting.
Right.
It's like we love watching the pro game when even last night, Matthew Stafford throwing the ball 60 yards downfield to Cooper Kupp or whatever. Like, that's exciting. If you have the athletes that can beat defensive backs one-on-one and a quarterback who can get them the ball, why not put 6 points on the board?
Yeah. No, that's what Connor said after the game, at Essex Tech, referring to Jace Dooley. If he can get open, they're throwing him the ball, and he gets open a lot. So they're going to be bad.
And they used to run the ball literally, like we figured it out, like 2 or 3 years in a row. They were running the ball like 88% of their offensive plays. So that's been a total shift for them.
That's what I mean. It's just it's different to watch, and like you said, it's entertaining. I like when they can kind of mix it up and throw the ball a lot more, especially these deep balls.
Matt, do you want the last 30 seconds?
I just think you can't fight City Hall. This is just the way football is going. It's basketball on grass, and that's, if you want to smash heads, kids aren't going to come out for the team. There's going to be great athletes in your school that are doing other things. So this is just the way it's going, and it's cool. And I guess my only other 2 words would be in general, Ariana Bazanson. She's pretty good. So.
Yeah,
3 goals and an assist on Sunday, right?
7 points in 3 games, I think. And Danvers is ranked number 14 in New England, and I think that stock's going to continue to rise.
All right.
Yeah. I saw that 14th in New England. I thought, who are the 13 teams better than Danvers?
Right. Well, yeah.
Really?
I mean, it's true. No, it's true. top 5 in the state anyway. I mean, I'd have to dig into some numbers. I know they probably were 3rd or 4th last year, but Under the Lights Thursday, going to be a great game with Fenwick. Fenwick was, in my opinion, a top 5 team in the state last year too, and brought everybody back. So, and my number 1, Bishop Feehan, graduated their best player. So, I think Fenwick and
Matt,
Danvers
I'm going to
gonna
have to
a great
stop you because we're at the end of our time. We're down to zeros here and the clock has run out on us. Gentlemen, we'll talk again soon.